All right, my friends, now we get into the good stuff, kind of, where I recorded this video a few times, and this is probably one of the most difficult things to get across. If you took the 7 Days to Genius Ideas challenge, which is free, this is kind of that process, but it's fit a bit better into, what would you call it, into this content ecosystem, right? With the purpose of creating a newsletter geez, or long form content from our ideas, right? And turning them into unique perspectives. Now, what screwed me up here is that, and what I want you to understand is that this is a long process, right? If you want to be a writer or a creator, or just create content, build a social media brand, whatever it may be, it's a lifelong thing. It really is a lifelong thing. But I've heard this argument a few times where it's like, I don't know if I should start this stuff. Like, I'm tired of what I'm doing for work, but I don't know if I should do this because it sounds like a commitment. Well, yeah, it's a fucking commitment. It's your entire life. If you want to do what you enjoy, why not do what you enjoy from the get-go and make it a part of your day, right? So I wish I could give you like every single piece of clarity possible with this course, but I've accepted that it really isn't that simple. It's not that simple. And if we want to create truly creative ideas, I can't do that for you, right? It has to be done by your own experience, your own testing, your own playing around with this and making your own. And now the reason we're doing it in here and why I had to restart the video is because mine is in Rome, right? This is all of mine. We're doing the same thing here, but these are like building blocks for my newsletters. If I get stuck on something and I'm talking about content creation, then I come in here, look at what I have written down, look at these big ideas, and then I can use those in the course, and that will help spark my own personal ideas that I can continue talking about because they're unique to me, and like people start to know me for that, right? So, getting back into this, what you do, we went over the cue and writing down ideas, high signal insights, the things that excite us, the things that we want to learn more about, book notes, YouTube video notes, audiobook notes, whatever it may be. Whatever good ideas you have, put them in here. Now, what do we do next? Well, we have to organize those ideas into a way that we can make sense of ourselves. So that way we can write about them, right? Because writing is about making sense. It's about taking the thoughts in your head and creating a strung together sentence or article that gets a point across, okay? So the first thing we do is we come into here, and this will make sense, but you can add these unique perspectives as many times as you want by clicking the plus button, but we're not going to do that. We're going to start with one. And what we're going to do here is you open this up. Now, what are we trying to dissect and discover from the thing that we want to learn more about, the high signal insight? And so in my case, I love doing this with quotes. I love making quotes my own, but you can do this from anything that you have written down in the queue. You can do it from something that stuck out to you in a YouTube video. You can do it with something that stuck out to you in, what would it be? A book. So I could come in here and let's look. Ego means I in Latin, but has a neutral connotation rather than the Western negative connotation. The ego is conscious. If I want to learn more about the ego and I want to write something about a different perspective on the ego because so many people think of it as a bad thing, then I can do that. And it will change minds because it's so unique and it's different from what they are hearing on a daily basis, right? But a lot of this stuff is philosophical. I study a lot of philosophy and it can get lost in the weeds. So I want to find a balance, right? So we're going to go back to the mind, and we're going to start dissecting something. Now, I already have something pulled up. This is not my favorite quote by Alan Watts, but it's one that does the job here, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to post this in references, and this is going to be a quote like this, and it's going to be by, well, I can just put it right here. that is not what I was trying to do by any means. Where is it? Okay. So Alt-Shift that. Alan Watts. Okay, so I have this. Now, this is where your references go. So if you are dissecting just a topic that comes to mind that you want to write about, then you can put it here. You can take something from a book. If you have a thought you want to dissect, you can write about the topic here, brain dump what the thought actually was. None of this is really linear, right? You just have to plug it into the right place and then work from there, so you make sense of it and are able to include it in your writing, right? So this is one of a good quote from Alan Watts because I resonate with it so much. And there's a lot of arguments around like, oh no, you can't do what you love for a living. You have to put in the work first. And it's like, yeah, it kind of makes sense, but I don't really like that. That's kind of like you're brainwashing yourself into not doing what you want. And so I like this quote because it's kind of counterintuitive, and Alan Watts, a lot of people like him. So if I use that in my writing, it gives me credibility and it starts to change people's minds, which is what we're after here, because that excitement of novelty, which is changing the mind, that's dopamine, that's how you get loyal readers from a psychological perspective. So now, what is the topic? Let's say creative work. And this should somewhat, the topic should somewhat align with your domain of mastery, right? If this doesn't make sense yet, bear with me. You have to understand this. Is why I tell you to go through the whole course like once before you start doing it, is that you have to understand everything and then come back through and then implement. So the topic is creative work. The reference is sensible people get paid for doing what they enjoy doing. Now, what I do is I brain dump everything that comes to mind, or I summarize what he's saying, or I add more reference notes if, let's say, I got this from a book and I wrote more notes on that, or just write about it here because that is a reference note, right? But the reference notes usually means like a longer summary of what you wrote as you were reading the book, okay? Or after you read like a section and then you wrote your own summary about it or what you thought of it. So to brain dump on this and just get some things out of my mind, sensible people get paid for doing what they enjoy doing. Why would we do anything else? And I already have something for common advice here. So read through these so you understand what they are more, but everyone is working towards a goal. Which one? What are the problems associated with those goals? What's the common advice given to those? So this helps. The common goals, problems, and advice helps create an actual unique perspective. Because what is a perspective, right? A perspective is your worldview. Your worldview is situated around specific goals. Whether you're conscious of them or not, that's how you view the world. You view the world pertaining to the goals that you are trying to achieve. If you are trying to advance in the corporate world, then you're only going to register advice in alignment with that or your other goals. If you want to become a good writer, then you're going to start seeing everything from the writer's perspective of, oh, I can use that in my writing. Oh, I should write about this. Oh, I should write a tweet about this or something of that case. So we need to understand the common perspective of what's going on so we can present our own and present an argument as to why ours is better, right? So a common goal that, well, first, again, this isn't linear. This doesn't go in any step-by-step order. But the problems associated with sensible people doing what they enjoy doing is that you need to work hard first, make money, then do what you want. That makes sense, but I don't really like that. And I could even say this line of thought brainwashes yourself into having that reality. What's another thing? So common goals, people want to do what they love, but don't know how to do that. The traditional career path does not lead people into creative jobs. And you can go on and on with this, right? And you can start to see that some of these will cross over. These are simply the brain dump, the common goals, personal experiences, potential frameworks. This is just getting everything out of your head pertaining to that specific line of thought. So then what creativity is, if you remember from the previous module, what creativity is you think of stars in the sky, right? And if you are, let's say, just sitting on, let's say you're close to the star and you can only see a few of them, you can connect those, and that's creativity, right? But if you want more creativity, you have to zoom out. You have to gain the big picture. You have to see everything for what it is without labeling or judging or closing your mind to something, right? You have to open your mind and zoom out and gain a broader perspective of what's actually going on, see all of the stars, and then you can connect any of those stars. The stars being ideas, thoughts, quotes, whatever. In our case, experiences, goals, problems, all of that stuff. And then you connect them into, let's say, an article or a solution or a product or something else. And what you can do is you take the connections of those dots, which let's say it's like an article, and if you were to summarize it in one sentence, that's what creates a quote, right? It's the depth behind the words that you are saying, the tweets that you are tweeting, or really anything, right? There is a lot of depth and thought that went behind this quote from Alan Watts. He probably came up with it after writing an entire book or giving an entire lecture or thinking for an hour about what are his actual thoughts on getting paid for what you enjoy doing, right? So it takes time and it takes open focus to be creative. You can't be zoomed in and stressed out about specific tasks of the day, and that's why rest is so important with this stuff. And why it's so intangible and it's not a commodity is because not many people can do it, right? Because they don't know what actually comprises creativity, and we're kind of systemizing it here as much as we can, because that's the other thing. If you can't replicate it, you can't systemize it to have results time and time again. So this is kind of my way of breaking that, right? So just so this doesn't drag on and you don't have to hear me sniffle all the time, so personal experiences or stories or problems that I've faced. So this gives more depth, right? Let's see. Personal experiences. Ever since I was young, I've been trying to build a business out of what I enjoy doing. Writing was the key to that, as well as like persuasion, influence, marketing, sales, pretty much intentional writing. I saw other people on social media doing it, so why couldn't I? And if you read some of my newsletters, I actually talk about this quite a bit. So I'm repeating the same thing, but I can use this as a building block in so many different aspects and areas of the actual writing, right? I can create a tweet out of this. I can create a thread out of this, or use it as a story and credibility in a thread, right? So we could brain dump a bit more, but I think this is the easiest one. You just write out every single thought that comes to mind, right? You sit with it, you zoom out, you try to think, you intentionally think, you critically think, and you write out things. So the next thing is a potential framework, system, or solution to overcoming common problems, right? Now, this gets refined with time. What I want you to focus on here, and this will make so much more sense when we actually go over how to structure a newsletter or long form writing, right? Or even a thread. All good threads, all good tweets, especially as a beginner, are step-by-step actionable advice with a framework, system, or solution that helps people, right? Solution to a problem. Because that's what all of marketing is. That's what all marketing, writing, everything is. It all starts with a problem. Storytelling. Think of the start of a story where it's like he woke up and the spot next to him on the bed was cold, and then it opens a curiosity loop, and you're like, oh, there's a problem. I need to figure out what it is. And then they walk you through the story, climax, they solve the problem, boom, right? So potential framework, system, or solution. So a solution in this case to doing what you want is starting a social media business with an emphasis on writing. And now we'll leave it at that. You can brainstorm like step by steps or steps to actually accomplish this, but you're going to be forced to do that in the newsletter, right? Or in the thread where it's like, I wrote one to promote this course where it's like 9 steps to building a profitable writing business, right? And that's exactly where this could come from. Isn't that interesting? Where you're going to have a lot of crossovers and connections and start to notice patterns in your own line of thought and what you truly believe, right? But now we're getting to the other stuff. So let's see what we're trying to do here. And I would highly recommend, like, take your time with all of this, because if you're going to be doing this for life, you might as well lock down creativity as a whole. I would recommend taking the 7 Days to Genius challenge so you get used to this workflow and you get used to coming up with big ideas. Big ideas, creative ideas, unique ideas to yourself. But what you're trying to do is with this, you want to summarize everything inside of here, all of this, into a 1-sentence big idea. And that is usually a quote of your own. If someone was to quote you, this would be the time, right? This would be what they quote you on, because there's depth behind the quote, especially if you write about it and your audience has read your newsletters and they see a quote like this and they're like, damn, that makes a lot of sense, only because you have shown them the depth behind it already, right? That's good writing. Or let's say an entire book. When you see a quote online and you like it instantly, and have you ever had that time where you think back and you're like, oh, that reminds me of this book that I read, like The Power of Now, when I hear people talk about presence, and it's like I attribute that quote to the author of The Power of Now simply because he has provided the most depth to me regarding that topic of spirituality and presence, right? So it just makes sense. So what we're going to do here first is think of the entire discovery or big idea. What did we discover from this in 1 sentence? So, and this is a creative practice in itself. But sensible people get paid for what they enjoy doing. Why would we do anything else? You need to work hard first, make money, then do what you want. How about this? This is just off the top of my head. And once you practice tweet writing, this gets a lot easier. But we'll start with the discovery, right? So the discovery is the internet has opened up the opportunity to do what you enjoy. You don't have to suffer anymore when creating your own career path. So we'll leave it at that. And this is just like a template, like structured. So now what we're going to do here is we're going to add the keyword. So the keyword here is just, or creative work. We'll add it like that. Category is kind of creative work, but online business. The topic is, well, it's all the same thing, right? So we're just listing out like tags for how we would organize and find this as we build a database of these unique perspectives that we can use as building blocks and as firepower for our newsletters and our writing, right? If we ever need to come up with our own idea, an original idea, we come in here, we can tweet about it, write threads, write LinkedIn posts, write whatever. This is the database that we build over time to have these unique and impactful ideas that people know us for. So the topic is just business, creativity, life enjoyment, right? We'll leave it at that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to color these. You can, again, this is all yours. You can do this however you want. But what I would do is just change the colors of these so that you can pick them out and you can read about them. So Now, when we have more of these, I would recommend creating these whenever you have the inspiration to. It doesn't have to be structured, but it can be. I like to come through and go through the queue and organize my ideas at least once a week. At least once a week, block out an hour and do it. It will save you. Oh my gosh, if I could tell you the impact that this has had on my newsletters alone, even if you may not see it now, it's changed them for good, right? I can come in here for the rest of my life, create a book out of this. I can create anything out of my own ideas with references, summaries, goals, problems, everything just at the ready to go for when it comes time to write. And so I would recommend you doing this and building a database of these ideas. And then as it gets to be too much, start to organize them. Have fun with it. Create it in a way that you will understand the most. And so throughout the rest of this course, we will figure out how to best use these for our newsletters, or at least like have just this database of ideas that we have. That's so useful. A database of unique knowledge that is unique to you. So I'll leave it to you at this point. Have fun with this, and let's get into the very good stuff.